What? The GOAT sales pro right here. Jeremy Miner's here. You guys want to hear the conversation? Be back in 30 seconds. Let's go. We are live. Thanks, everybody. Be back on a special episode of Meet My Guest with Joe Moose. We have the amazing Jeremy Miner. Before we get to him, I want to make sure everybody knows you guys are involved in the conversation. So get it in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from, what's your name. And if you want your name shown, like always, click on the StreamYard link to give us permission to show your name, or it's going to say Facebook user. But this is going to be amazing. Today, I put a quote on my Facebook post, and I want to start off with this. My favorite quote from Jeremy Miner. The single most effective way to sell anything is to become a problem finder and a problem solver, not a product pusher. So for Jeremy, the embodiment of this philosophy made him one of the wealthiest sales professionals on the planet. During his 17-year sales career, he was recognized in the direct selling industry as the 45th highest earning producer out of more than 108 million salespeople selling anything worldwide. Jeremy's earnings as commission-only sales rep were in the multiple seven figures every year. His company's 7th level was ranked the #1 fastest growing sales training company in the U.S. the last 2 years by Inc. magazine, Inc. 5,000 fastest growing companies list. 7th level was also ranked as one of the top 10 sales training companies in the world in 2022 by the prestigious Selling Power magazine. Now, Jeremy's particular brand of sales training pioneers the unique use of behavioral science and human psychology within the sales process, reflective of his deep studies in the subject from Utah Valley University. Now, 7th level has helped over 561,000 salespeople in 158 different industries the last 5 years, 3 times, 5 times, even 10 times their sales results. He is a contributor for Inc. magazine and has been featured in Forbes, USA Today, Entrepreneur magazine, The Wall Street Journal, and a host of other publications on the topic of sales, persuasion, and the role of human behavior within the buying process. His new book, The New Model of Selling to an Unsellable Generation, co-authored by Jerry Akoff, CEO of Delta Point, is available in all major bookstores. Jeremy Miner, thank you so much. I know you didn't have to do this. I really appreciate you making the time for us.
Joe, thanks. That was I need to maybe have our team edit the bio because that was 17 pages. So thank you very much. I'm going to take that as a compliment because my kids say I'm pretty boring. How are you doing?
I've seen your stuff all over social media, and you're the opposite of boring. And I appreciate you taking the time to drop some gold nuggets for these guys. Sure. I want to be able to ask you some questions.
I'll do my best for you guys. Tell me a little bit about your audience. You got a bunch of solar guys and gals.
So we have a Facebook group called Solar Objections. Over 25,000 members. We focus on solar sales training, solar sales tips. Community, helping each other. Iron sharpens iron. So we just try to help each other out as much as possible.
I love that. Yeah, I looked up the solar industry. Thank you, Nick, sir. So we train 161 industries now or something. The solar is in the top 5 that we are actually involved in. I didn't even know. I knew it was big, but it seems like you guys, your industry is getting bigger, and I'm assuming, not going anywhere.
It's small right now. I'll tell you that, but it definitely is growing in my opinion. But sure. I know if you were in solar, you'd be crushing it based on your experience. How did this all get started in the beginning for you? Yeah. Is this you've been doing this since you were a kid, or how do you get started even selling?
Well, yes, I was born out of my mother's womb with advanced questioning skills. No, of course not. So I got, I love this industry. Now, Joe, I need to ask you, maybe I should ask you. Are most of your people that follow you in here, they're all in solar, are they mainly door-to-door, or are they door-to-door and virtual? Do they sell both?
Definitely both worlds.
Yeah. Okay, good.
That's a couple of my questions too.
Yeah, I'm asking you questions. I'm making sure I'm speaking to the right people. So yeah, so I got started in sales 22 years ago. I'll give you the short story because bore you guys to death. So I started in sales 22 years ago, broke, burned out college student in the state of Utah. I went to Utah Valley University. For all of those of you in Utah, I love Utah. And basically I went to a recruiting meeting, 21 years old kid. They hire everybody. It's straight commission. Everybody gets hired because, well, no skin off their back if you don't make a sale. And basically, as some of you might know, back in the day, I don't know how it's different now, but back in the day, they'd give you some scripts. They'd give you a couple books by the sales gurus. They'd drive you out in a van. And, I sold alarm systems. That was my first job. So they'd take you out in the not so safe neighborhoods and, basically kind of like, kick you out of the van. And they're like, hey, go make some sales. It'll be easy. We'll pick you up after dark. Right. That was my first experience. Yes. And I still, yeah, right. So, so I still remember like looking back at my sales manager. I was thinking about this before I got on. His name was Xane. He has like this crazy, like blonde surfer hair, like the cool dude, what's up? And basically Xane said something like, hey, it's going to be easy. Don't worry about it, J Minor. Like just knock on the door, show them how excited you are about the alarm, show them that you believe in it and they're going to believe in it. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess that makes sense. What did I know as a 21-year-old kid? So, that makes sense. If I believe in it, if I am excited about it, if I show them that excitement, then somehow they're magically going to be excited too. So I started knocking on the doors and I was all excited and enthusiastic because that's what the gurus told me to do. And I started talking about the features and the benefits and how we had the number one this and we were the best this and we had the most, installs in the neighborhood and we had the best prices and blah, 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 blah. We had the best this, best that. And basically from the first store, I found out very quickly I was getting all these objections. We don't need it. Your price is too high. We already talked with somebody about this from your company. I need to do more research. I need to talk to my spouse. I need to think it over. Can you call me back a week, a month, a year later? Now, type in me if you ever get any of those objections yourself. Okay. Well, let's all be real, right? And so I remember, and this is probably like, God, it's kind of a nightmare to remember some of this stuff. So about 7 to 8 weeks in, because where I got hired, I don't know where you guys are at with how you guys get hired door to door, but in the state of Utah, at least 20 years ago, you would get hired going to college, and the whole pitch was, hey, work 3.5 months during the summer. So you'd start like May 1st, and you'd get done like August 25th. So it was about a 3.5 month, almost 4 month summer program. So you would just get shipped out to all these states and cities for 4 months. You'd work your little fanny off like 6 days a week, 14 hours a day. And hopefully you made enough money in the summer where you didn't have to work while you went to college. That was the whole idea, right?
Yeah.
So after almost halfway into the summer, I had hardly made any sales that first summer, like realistically, like it was not looking good for J Minor. So I remember, I actually remember this. I remember the time that actually changed for me. So this was probably like mid-June. I've already been there like almost 7 weeks. And I remember on a Friday evening waiting to get picked up by my sales manager in the white van. I still remember the white van they used to have there. I remember like sitting there with like the sweat rolling down my freaking chest and my back. And as you know, if you're door to door, 12 hours of walking every day, your legs start to feel like jello, just like you're like shaking, right? And I remember not making any sales that day. And in fact, that week I'd made 0 sales. So you're talking like you work 60 hours, you make 0 sales, straight commission, you make $0. Yeah. And I remember like this whole thought, like, maybe selling just wasn't for me. Like I wasn't born a salesperson like all these other top people in the office. Like I'll go back and get a real job at, whatever hardware store or whatever. And I remember when my manager picked me up, he popped in this CD. Back, the 22 years ago, they listened to these like weird things, round things called CDs.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day, So, and it was Tony Robbins. It was the first time I ever heard of him. And Tony said something like completely changed my viewpoint of skills, sales, everything forever. I don't know where I'd be had I not heard that. And he said, you will fail. So you will fail if you don't learn the right skills necessary to succeed. Like I might be butchering it, Tony, but you will fail if you don't learn the right skills. And he goes on to say that everybody is actually taught skills. But he said, here's the kicker. The people who fail, the people who do not do as well, are the ones that were not taught the right skills. That there was a difference in skill level, that there were certain skills that were far more effective than other skills. That was the first time I'd ever really thought about that. I'm 21. What would I know, right? There's a difference in skill level. So I thought to myself, maybe what the company was training me and what I was learning from the old sales gurus, maybe they just weren't the right skills anymore. Maybe they just didn't work as well, right? So I basically at that point, like I had just gotten married. I'm divorced now, but I just got married. My beautiful daughter, Cammie, was on her way, 21-year-old. What am I going to do? I got to make money. And I decided like, hey, I've got to acquire these skills. Like I can't keep going on this way. So, and I know like all of you on here, like me, you want to provide a great lifestyle for your family. That's why you're in this Facebook group. That's why you follow Joe. But I had a major dilemma because I was using, traditional selling skills, like assume the sale, always be closing, option close, puppy dog close, Benjamin Franklin close, and all these sayings. And some of the techniques would work. I'm just being real. Some of them would work and I'd make a few sales. But I also noticed a lot of the techniques did not work very well at all. In fact, when I used them, I would notice that my prospects would tend, like their guard would come up. Like I'd ask questions and they just give me like vague, generalized, like, surface level answers. And then I'd get thinking over objections. So I started noticing these things and I'd get more objections when I use some of those techniques. Now, here's the kicker. This is actually a blessing in disguise. So at the same time, while I'm going through these books from the gurus, I'm going to college. My major is behavioral science and human psychology, okay, which I have an unfair advantage maybe. And so my professors, they were saying that basically the most effective way to communicate was, in an overview, was over here. But the gurus and their programs, they were saying it was over here. It's like really opposite. So I'm like, how do I take, because behavioral sciences, Joe, it's really the study of the brain and how human beings make decisions, which is really good to know if you're a salesperson, right? Like, how do you get them to make the decision that's going to, solve their problems and get where they want, right? So basically, I'm like, how do I take what I'm learning from human psychology, social dynamics, the way the brain operates, okay, human behavior, how do I take that and bring it into a sales process with the, there's not, you don't go to school and they're like, here's the right questions to ask. Here's how to use your tone. You're going to angle your throat this way. I mean, they don't teach you that, right? It's more theory. So I'm like, how do I take this and wrap it into a system with the right questions, the right tone, asked at the right time? And so I started learning how to use techniques that would get my prospects to actually do all the work. Whereas, as you know, in traditional selling, we are taught you have to do all the work. So I was learning how to get my prospects to sell themselves, how to get them overcoming their own objections, how to get them to pull me in rather than push and pressure them to buy. And overnight, as some that probably knew me from back in the day, selling became, well, very, very easy and exceptionally profitable. Now, why did I tell you all that? Because I realized none of you really give a damn about my story. You only care about who? You care about yourself. You're a human being, right? So I tell you that because I want you to imagine me like 5 years from that date that I almost quit. I'm talking like 5 years later, I was making multiple 7 figures a year in commissions. Now, that wasn't in the alarm industry because you only work 4 months out of the year, but my best summer in alarms, I installed close to 400 installs, like 390 some installs. That was in a 3.5 month period.
100 a month?
Yeah, my best month was like 126. Now, I've heard, because we have a lot of companies we train in that industry as well, and a lot of door-to-door salespeople are in our advanced programs. I've heard that they have some crazy things now. Correct me if I'm wrong. They have some apps where you can kind of walk by freaking homes and kind of know their credit score if they're going to pass or not. And I'm like, if I would have had that back in 2000 to 2005, I probably would have had 800 installs. I'm not kidding, in a 4-month summer, because, like you'd go into some of those neighborhoods, the first 6 doors you'd sell, 1 out of 6 would pass credit, but you're wasting 30 minutes with each one. If I had an app that told me the credit scores, good Lord, crazy. I don't even,
Game over.
Game over. Good Lord. You guys are lucky. So that's kind of how it all started with me. And then I got into 3 other industries besides door to door, and, you know, made a few dollars. There you go.
If you guys don't know, this is Jeremy Miner, a sales goat, sales training extraordinaire, is here to help us, the solar industry, understand how to sell a little bit better. And that's my first question real quick. And guys in the audience, if you guys have questions, I'll pick some good ones. So go ahead, put some more questions in there. But my first question is exactly what you're saying. Because if you were selling solar right now, there's no doubt in my mind you'd be one of the highest selling solar, salesmen in the country. So what are some things, well, based on what I hear, I think you would be. What are some things would you implement in your solar sales game if you're selling solar today?
Man, I mean, the biggest thing that, okay, so let's talk about the difference between like door to door and selling virtual, because there's a little bit of a different ball game. Now, the first thing that you have to understand, Joe, do you want me to pull? I got my vibe board here. I love my vibe board.
Oh, it's beautiful. I'll give you the big screen.
I'm like the vibe board, weirdo over here. We got vibe boards all over this office. So the first thing that you have to understand when, let's just talk about like selling door to door. And this is even virtually as well, is you have to learn that the biggest thing you have to learn is how do you get your prospects to let their guard down? Okay. That's the biggest thing that you're competing with. So how do you get them to let their guard down? How do you actually do that? Because one thing that just behavioral science 101, the way the brain works is within the first 7 to 12 seconds of any sales conversation you're ever going to be in. That's if you're knocking the door. That's if you get on Zoom for a virtual appointment in your industry, or even if you're at the home, and it doesn't matter, your prospects subconsciously, okay, we quite literally cannot help it as a human being. It's the way God wired our brains. They are picking up on your verbal and nonverbal cues. Okay, that means your tonality, okay, and what you're saying and asking that triggers their brain to react in one of 2 ways. That's scary. Triggers their brain to react in one of 2 ways. So if you come across salesy, what I mean by you come across really excited, and I love that you're excited about solar. I would suggest keep that internally, because when you start communicating that externally to a prospect, what the hell do they care if you're excited about solar? Like, what does that mean to them? Like, oh, because you're excited, like, oh, I'm going to be excited, right? Like, think about all the salespeople that try to stuff their thing down your throat that are really excited. You're like, oh, wow, he's really excited about this. I better buy. No, you do the exact opposite. Let's just be real, right? It triggers sales resistance. So if you come across salesy, if you come across too excited, if you come across aggressive, if you come across needy, some of you know what I mean by that, right? When you knock on the door, you get on Zoom, you can feel the neediness. If you feel it, I know your prospect feels it way more than you do, right? And if you come across attached, that's the key word, and you don't understand the right questions, you don't understand the right tone, what happens is it triggers their brain to go into what's called fight or flight mode, okay? Now, everybody on here has probably heard of fight or flight mode, but do you know what causes it? See, that's the thing. We've all heard of it. Like when I was in sales, 21, 22, I'd read books like, oh, people go into fight or flight mode, but then they would never say why or how to prevent it. And that was my whole thing. I'm like, why did they do this? I wanted to find, why does their brain do this? Why? And then how do I prevent this from happening? Does everybody know what I mean? When you knock on the door and you can just tell, like they're already triggered within the first 10, 30 seconds.
They're trying to close the door.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, solar, not interested. Bam. So what causes that? Or let's say you get on virtually and you start asking a bunch of questions. And then question number 6, like, hey, enough with the questions. Just tell me how much it's going to cost. I'll tell you if I'm interested. See, that's because that's a triggered reaction. Did the prospect, okay, I want everybody to think about this. Did the prospect wake up that morning and they're like, you know what? When I get on Zoom with Joe at 3:30 today, when Joe asked me that 4th question, because his tone is a little bit high pitched at the very end, I think I'm going to go into fight mode. I'm going to say enough with the questions. Just tell me what you have and I'll tell you if I want it. Or did that person wake up that morning and say, you know what? If there's a door-to-door salesperson that comes around when I get off work at about 6 and, they go and hey, you know, I'm in the neighborhood because of, and they sound like every other salesperson knocking the door. I'm going to go into fight or flight mode. Like, solar, not interested. No, see, they didn't plan that out. That's a triggered reaction based on how you use your tone, actually, that triggered them to go into fight or flight mode. So the biggest thing you have to learn as a salesperson, I don't care if it's door to door or virtual, is you have to learn, how do I get them not to go into here? So when you come into that conversation, and I'll show you an example of what I did when I knocked on the doors real quick, and I'll even show you virtual. It's because it has to be tweaked, right? Yeah. But I kind of learned this the hard way, because when I would knock on doors this first like 5-6 weeks, I would just follow the script they gave me. I'd be like, yeah, are you the homeowner? Yeah, I'm the homeowner. Hey, yeah, I'm Jeremy Miner. I'm with XYZ Security. And the reason why we're out in your neighborhood is we have a blah, blah. And you kept talking. And within about 30 seconds, now I would try to talk so fast because I was like, if I talk really fast, then somehow it's going to, like, something I'm going to say in there is going to magically trigger them to be like, oh, wow, that's great. Yeah, where do I buy? But I realized that didn't really help. It actually made it worse. So when I started knocking the doors, I'm like, okay, I have to learn how to do this. And I started learning this. I started taking courses on this while I was in school. And I started to learn what is called pattern interrupts. Probably spelled that wrong. Pattern interrupts in the brain. How do I interrupt the pattern they're used to? Okay. So what is a homeowner used to? They're used to what? Alarm salespeople, solar, pest control, landscaping, energy. I mean, well, I could list probably 30.
Religion.
Yeah, missionaries from different churches. Like, they're used to people knocking on their doors. It's not like you're the only person that's ever knocked on their door, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Now, what are they typically used to? And there's variations of the approach, but most salespeople that knock on the door from pretty much every industry, hey, are you the homeowner? Yes. If they even say that, and then they're like, they go into their pitch. Hey, the reason why I'm out here today is we're in the neighborhood. And okay, when you sound like everybody else in the prospect's brain, that goes into what's called their survival part of their brain. I'm going to keep this very basic. I don't want to go into science. That's your reptilian part of the brain. That is your survival part of the brain that is protecting you from danger. It's been in our brain since God put the first people here on this planet, whenever that was. That's debatable, right? So it's like your brain, like you hear the tiger come around, 10,000 years ago, whatever, your brain, survival, like, am I okay? Right? So when you sound like everybody else, because how are salespeople viewed in society at large? At a lowered status.
Oh, yeah.
Very low status. Even if you're like a rich salesperson, they view you as a low status. So when you sound like every other salesperson who they view at a low status, defensive mechanisms go off and they're like, oh, I got to protect myself. So they quite literally don't even hear the words you're saying. They're hearing your tone and you're automatically triggering this. So I'm like, how do I stop that? How do I interrupt the pattern? How do I sound different? Now, the first thing I did, and I don't even remember how I did this, I just started figuring out, is I didn't want to look like everybody else. Okay. Now, I will tell you, like 22 years ago, what do you guys wear now? Like shorts, like khakis, and like the polos?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So when I first started knocking in the summer 2000, it wasn't actually like that. Just, it was like, we had to wear like dress pants, and it was weird. But like the next year, we're like, okay, it's really hot out here in the summers. We need to wear the shorts. So, we wore the basic shorts. But what I did is I figured out, like, I didn't want to look cool. I didn't want to look everybody. It's like the chains and all that stuff. I wanted to look like a low threat to them. So what I did is I went and bought like a $10 Walmart watch. I still had the khakis, the thing here. I bought the old grandpa white New Balance shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, they're really comfortable, but they just made me look like I wasn't a threat. I wasn't the cool guy, right? And what I did is I went and got I had like a lime green construction vest, and I also had an orange construction vest. I would just change them out. There'd be one week I'd have like 37 installs with the orange one. I'm like, I'm going orange for the rest of the month. I don't know. It's weird. And then I would have like a clipboard, like a meter reader. Okay. Had a clipboard there. I put like a document on there with like 5 or 6 different questions, like I was taking a survey or something. I'd put like a tape measure on there, because you got to measure where the alarm system is going to go, right? And so when I knock on the door, what I would do, I'll try to do this virtually as best as I can. I do about 6-7 feet back, and I knock on the door. And when they were coming to the door, I was always looking around. Now with alarms back in the day, the way that they were positioned is like, hey, if you put the sign in the yard where people can see it, you get the alarm system free. You just pay the monthly monitoring, blah, 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 blah. But if I was selling solar, and when we train solar reps and companies that are big in solar, we train them to kind of look up at the roof and like they're writing stuff down, almost like it's kind of a mystery what this guy's or gal's doing out on the door, right? So when they come to the door, I'm like looking at this. I'm like looking at the roof. Like if I sold pest control, I'd probably look at the cobwebs, and the spiders or whatever. So I'm looking here. When they come to the door, and this is going to sound very counterintuitive. Sometimes I've done reels and they're like, what? Jeremy, that's no way. There's no way you can do that. That'll never work. I'm like, what would I know? I don't, who knows?
Who knows?
And so I'd knock on the door. They'd come and I would still be looking and they would always spark it first. They're like, hey, how can I help you? And I'd be like, yeah, are you guys the property owners here? And I would use a confused tone. Now, why on earth would I use a confused tone? Well,
because it's the opposite of salesy, probably.
Yes. Well, here's why. So everybody write this down. Your tone out. Everybody's read in books. I know you all have read books that say 73% of the sale is from your nonverbal and verbal ability. That means your tonality and your body language. But then they never teach you how to do that. So we do that at 7th level because that's my background, behavioral science. So a confused tone in the brain causes a human being their brain interprets my confused tone that I am confused about something and they need to clarify it for me. Okay. That's what a confused tone causes your brain to think. Like grandpa walks in to the gas station. He's lost. He's like, can somebody help me? I'm not sure where I'm going. Everybody's like, how can I help you? See, we're humans. Our brains are wired this way. Okay. So I'd be like, yeah, and I wouldn't say homeowner, I would say property owner. Are you guys the property owners here? And they'd be like, yeah, we're the property owners. What's going on? That right there is a pattern interrupt. That right there causes them to be curious. What I just triggered was curiosity, where they are now paying attention to what I'm about to say and they're engaged. Whereas when you knock on the door and you start talking, they are not even hearing the words you're saying. They are quite literally interpreting your intention as salesperson trying to sell me something because you're talking fast and you're just talking. That's how they're interpreting what you're doing. And that's why you get rejected very, very quick. So that's just one thing. That's one example. There's tons more for your industry patterns. But I learned that. And so quite literally, I literally can count on both of my hands in a 5-summer career selling alarms, how many people slammed the doors on me. It was like nobody did. Okay. Because I triggered curiosity. I could go out and knock on 5 doors and sell 3 out of 5 pretty easy. Okay. That's one example. What else you got for me?
I love that. So let's say you're at the door and you got the door open and now they're curious. They're talking to you. Sometimes it's easy just to make an appointment. Oh yeah, make an appointment. They say yes. But how do you actually make sure it's a quality appointment that homeowner's going to show up and be ready?
Yeah. Well, one thing you have to do is you have to build a gap. So we talk a lot about that in our training. So you have to build a gap from where this prospect is to where they want to be. Now, the thing is when you're going out on the doors or even virtually, so there's a difference here. So when you're knocking door to door, you're coming to them, okay? They don't even really know they have a problem, right? Otherwise, they would have called you. So they don't even know they have a problem. Or maybe they do, because if they show up virtually, they know they kind of have a problem, right? But they do not understand really the depth of the problem. More than likely, unless they're a lay down. They don't understand how bad it really is. They don't understand the consequences of what happens if they don't do anything about solving the problem. So it's your job to help them build a gap from where they are, okay, to where they want to be or where they can see they can be. And when you build such a gap, and I'll show you a few questions to help you do that are industry specific. When you build that type of gap, what it triggers in their brain is it causes them to feel like there's a need and there's urgency to actually book the appointment and show up for the appointment. The problem with if you have hard time with show up rates, so I'm talking like if you don't have at least 7 out of 10 people show up to the appointment, that means you don't know how to build a gap yet. And so they don't feel like they have really a problem or a need. And so when, grandpa calls and says, hey, can you come over here and bring the shovel? They look at like, oh, grandpa is more of a priority than the door-to-door salesperson because they don't feel like there's a problem or that much of a need. And they just forget about you. That's what it is, right? So what I want to do when I finish knocking on that door, they're like, yeah, we're the homeowner. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm Jeremy Miller. I apologize. I don't have much time. I've got an appointment a couple of doors down, but I stopped by to see if you guys could possibly help me out for a moment. Confused tone. Sure. Yeah. What's going on? How can I help you? Well, I'm not even sure if you could, if you speak with your neighbors or really know what's going on, but it's actually easier if I showed you, like, this is your house. See how I'm like, it might be like, I'm still confused. It might be easier if I actually showed you, like, see your house here. These are all your neighbors. They get all their electricity now from us instead of like Nevada Power. And we're not selling solar panels. If that makes sense, they'd probably already be on your roof. Then I'm going to go into a little bit more. The reason why we're out here is we just compete with Nevada Energy. Like, what was the main reason that you guys picked them to pay them for like your electricity? I'm confused. Well, I didn't have a choice. Well, probably a cheesy question, right? But are you opposed to homeowners even having a choice? Well, no. What do you mean? See, when I ask a cheesy question, okay, that's an obvious answer. The thing that you do is you put, this is kind of a cheesy question, and then you ask the question, and it doesn't make it cheesy in their mind. Does that make sense? That's another example of a pattern interrupt. Okay. So that's just one little example. There's a lot more to that, but that's kind of how you get into it. Like, oh, it might be easier if I actually showed you. See, I'm like, they don't know what's going on. It's like a mystery, like, what's going on? So they start to engage. But the thing that you have to have there is you have to have that kind of confused tone in the beginning. Now, when you get into it, you don't want to act confused then, because then they're going to look at you like you're an idiot, right? But in the beginning, if I want to get them to let their guard down and like, what's going on? I have to almost act a little bit confused because they come to your rescue. Does that make sense? All right. Let's keep going. There's a lot more to that.
100%. I love this. You're dropping so much fire. Again, so many comments. We actually have one comment I wanted to ask from you. He's asking about those pattern interrupts, but virtually. Any ideas? Any some tips there?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different virtually. Let me pull up one of your sales structures from a huge company that we just took over that I personally wrote myself for your industry. Oh yeah, here we go. I'm just looking at myself. All right, so so let's say they show up virtually. Now I've seen scripts from a lot of companies, and they kind of jump in their solution. So what you want to do is, whether it's on the door or especially if it's virtually, you have to learn how to get the prospect into results-based thinking, okay? Rather than cost-based thinking. Most salespeople get them into cost-based thinking. I want to focus on results-based thinking. See, one thing you have to understand is you're not selling the thing. Okay. You're selling the results of what the thing does, right? So in solar, you're not selling them on going solar. You're not selling them on going green. Okay. Those are just like down the road. You're selling them on maybe a lower bill. You're selling them on a locked in rate. You're selling them on what happens because they go to solar, which eventually they might not have a bill. So you're selling the results of what solar does for them, not the thing itself. And that's what most salespeople don't realize. You're selling the end result. So right at the very beginning, let's say they get on Zoom, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. Can you see me? Oh, hey, I can't see you in the video. Is your video broken? A lot of times you do that to get them on. I'll be like, oh yeah, I've got to get the video on. You see, I'm acting confused. Because I want it. Why would I want to see them on the video?
Body language, baby.
Yeah, I gotta read their body language. Now it's most important that they can see me. That's the most important, because now I'm a human being. I'm real. But if I can see their body language, I even have a better advantage. But you don't want to be like, I've seen a lot of salespeople in the industry. Hey, can you turn on your video? I really like to see who I'm working with. Lame, so salesy. Like, no, why do you need to see me on video? You're just like, are you, I can't see you. Is your video broken? Yeah. A lot of times they'll be like, yeah, let me turn it on. Right. Or they'll be like, oh no, I don't like to turn my video. Well, what are we going to do with you over there? It's 3 o'clock. Are you still in your pajamas, George? Oh, no, I'm not buying pajamas. And they turn it off. Right. See, that's a playful tone. Well, I guess I can forgive you. What are you doing over there? It's 3:30. Are you still hanging out in your pajamas, man? Oh, no, I'm not. See, I'm playful there. I have to use that as a playful tone. Now, a lot of salespeople, because they don't know how to use tone yet, they're not trained how to use it. They'll be like, yeah, can you turn on your video? Oh, okay. What's going on? Are you in your pajamas over there? Whoa, weird. That sounds weird. See how my tone, I said the same thing, but my tone influences how you feel when I say it. Okay, that's a playful tone. I'm sarcastic, right? And so then what I'm going to do, okay, so I've got the notes here. Looks like you booked on the calendar about possibly, looking at ways to maybe lock in your rate and lower your power bill, right? Right. Now, what did I just do there? Focused on the results of the thing, looking at ways to lock in your rate and lower your bill, right? Nobody's going to say, no, I'm not looking to lock in my rate or lower my bill. See, that's the results of what solar does. So I'm putting that at the end of the very first question. They're always like, yeah, right. That's why I'm here. Hey, I was curious. So like when you saw the ad where you saw Danny Bean kind of going over like the differences with solar and, some of the power, like the rate hikes they've been making you pay. What was it that he went over that maybe, caused you to want to look into this a little bit more? See how I'm neutral there. I'm still neutral. That caused you to maybe want to look into this more. Well, we've been thinking about, see where I'm going in there? Okay. So that's the very first part. Those are called NEPQ connection questions, neuro-emotional persuasion questions. Then I'm going to use what's something that's called a status frame. Now, in door-to-door, you won't use that until you get more in the home. Okay. Like after you come back from the appointment. But for your industry, you use a status frame so that they know that there could be next steps. All right. So I'll show you this.
Status frame.
Yeah, it's called a status frame. So when you come into any conversation, okay, you want to get that prospect within the first few seconds to feel you're at least as the same status as they are. Most salespeople get on a sales call and they're like, especially if they're on Zoom or a phone call, like, hey, how you doing today? How's your day going? Oh, yeah, it's awesome. Where do you live? Oh, you're in Georgia? Oh, I love Georgia. I'm a big Braves fan. Did you watch the game last night? Oh, you didn't? Oh, okay. Well, and it's same predictable questions that every salesperson that's tried to sell them anything from a vacuum cleaner to a life insurance policy, to a car, to a home, to freaking cybersecurity, to their company, ask the same question. So you're immediately put in what category? Salesperson trying to sell me something. So most of your prospects, you know how they interpret those type of boring questions? As this: I'm just trying to get you to like me so I can sell you my thing. That's how they feel. And so what you're doing, you might not be aware of it, but if you have a lot of your prospects, when you ask questions that give you vague, generalized, surface level answers, it's because you are triggering them to put up the wall by using same predictable questions that every salesperson says anything, ask. Now there's a lot more to that. So I want to be different. Okay. I would say the first part of this call, I mean, it's pretty basic. It's really more for us to find out kind of more about like your usage, like what you're doing, like what you're paying there and what type of rate hikes they've been making you pay, maybe compared to what you're trying to get the bill down to, just to see if we can help. And then, towards the end of the call, if you feel that, hey, this might be what you're looking for, we can talk about possible next steps. Would that help you? Yeah. No, it would not help me to talk about possible next steps. See, I'm neutralizing that. Now, what did I do there? I want to show everybody. If I could share my screen, I could even show you this. The first part of the what's that? You want me to share my screen? I'll actually show it to you.
You only have a few minutes left. If you have, I want to make sure we have plenty of time. But
I'll go 15 more minutes for you guys.
Oh,
What's
sweet. Let's go. Go to the comments, everybody. Go ahead.
If you want, I can share my screen on here.
Just click on present and share screen.
Okay, let's see if I can do it on my end. Okay, slides. Oh, share screen. Yeah. I always forget how to use StreamYard on this.
That's my favorite.
So I need to go window.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what we got here. You guys are lucky here. What do we got? Is that good?
Yeah, I see it.
All right. So look at it. This is called, see here what I have up here. Connection questions, solar inbound. Okay. So we have scripts for every industry at this point.
Look at that.
See what I talked about? It looks like you booked on the counter about possibly looking at, ways to lock in your rate and lower your bill, right? See even how I'm using my hand gestures. Now, what did I just do visually about ways to lock in your rate and lower your bill, right? See, visually, I'm getting them in results-based thinking about that, okay? So when I go down to the status frame here, okay, yeah, in the first part of this call, I mean, it's pretty basic. Wash my hands. It's pretty basic. It's really more for us to find out about, your usage, what type of rate hikes have been making you pay lately compared to maybe what you're trying to get the bill down to see what that gap looks like. And then, towards the end of the call, if you feel that, hey, it might be what you're looking for, we can talk about, possible next steps. Would that help you? Now, what did I just do there? Okay, the first part of this call is pretty basic. Why on earth, Jeremy, would you downplay the call? You got to make it seem important. Why would I downplay it? Because I remember I have to get the prospect to what? To let their guard down. When you downplay things, prospects don't feel pressure, okay? They feel pressure, the guard goes up immediately. That's our brains, our defensive mechanisms. So why do I say it's pretty basic? It's just more for us. I want to guard it. Find out about your usage, what type of rate hikes have been making you pay. Now, this is a key word here, okay? What type of rate hikes have been making you pay? In America, Americans don't like to be made or forced to do anything. What type of rate, look at my hands. What type of rate hikes have been making you pay? See what I just visually did? I instantly created a gap visually in their brain compared to maybe what you're trying to get the bill down to. See what I just did? To see what the gap looks like? See, this is all psychology here that you have to learn how to do. Everything I'm doing here is intentional, okay? And then towards the end of the call, if it might be what you're looking for, why would I use might be or possible? Because you've all been trained. You got to assume the sale right when you knock on the door. Well, you just get a lot of doors slammed in your face. Now, I can assume more during the conversation after I've built a bigger gap in trust. But how could I start assuming, especially if I'm knocking on the door cold call, and that's basically a cold call, how can I assume in the beginning when I literally have zero trust and credibility? Do I know I can help them? Yes. Does the prospect who I knocked on their door 30 seconds ago, who doesn't even know me from Adam, know I can help them? No. So what do I first have to do? I have to get them to let their guard down. That's the same thing virtually as well. Get them to let their guard down. And by the end of that conversation, oh yeah, I'm going to build such a gap from where they are to where they want to be, where they feel like I am like the answer, the miracle that knocked on the door, where they're like thanking me with their firstborn child to save them this money because they had no idea that they were getting forced to pay all these rate hikes. See, that's when you learn how to get the prospects to do all the work, because once again, who has the problem? They do, not you. They're the ones that have the problems. Who has the solution to solve the problems? You do. So you got to start acting like that, right? Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%.
So I'll show you one thing here while we're going. So let's say if they're like, that, virtually, a lot of times they'll be like, well, I just want to know the pricing, or I want to know what it's going to be or whatever. Okay. So this is really important because a lot of people just don't know how solar works, right? And so what you do is you just agree with them first. So you have to answer it indirectly, because the first thing you can do is you can try to answer it, which wouldn't make any sense because you wouldn't really know anyways. And they're just going to be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Or you can like sweep it underneath their, oh, I'll go over that with you later. And then they're going to feel like you're hiding, right? So they just trigger resistance. So I want to answer it indirectly. I'm going to like, oh yeah, I'll go through all that with you for sure. I mean, it really all depends on kind of the amount of like the direct sunlight, like on your home, your roof, and like kind of what your usage looks like. The rate hikes those guys have been making you pay, compared to maybe what you're trying to get the bill down to. And once I understand all those details, I can show you all the different options we have for our clients. Would that help you more if I did that for you? And they're like, yeah, that would help me more. And now they become open to my questions. And now it makes sense because I'm asking questions about those things for them to be more open. You see what we're doing there? Does that make sense to everybody?
Oh my God. Everybody's throwing so many comments there. Fire, amazing, love this. They're all gravitating towards it. You're literally giving like training that's going to help someone make $1 million a year. Like just they took what you're teaching them and really learned it. They could take an average rep and make them a millionaire. Would you say that?
Well, we have a lot of salespeople that make 100, 150 grand every month, virtual or they don't even have teams. They're just like virtual salespeople, or they door to door. I can tell you there's a lot.
No,
there's not like 5. There's like, it's like a dime a dozen, these millionaires now. So there's a lot more to this. You can't just ask 3 questions and be like, oh, it's over. I'm going to close them all out, right? There's more to this process. So, that's a little thing over there. Now, hey, how long have you guys been using Nevada Energy? This is, one for a big company we have there in Nevada. 4 years. Now, hey, how long have you guys been using Nevada? Oh, you've been with them 4 years. And your electric bills, could you tell me a little bit more about those? I know most of the year they're pretty low, but what have they been making you pay lately? Now, what did I just do? I know most of the year they're pretty low. Why on earth, Jeremy, why on earth would you try to convince them that their bills are low? Do you know why? Because the way the brain is, when I downplay something, your people will typically make it a bigger deal. But when I make things a bigger deal, especially if they think I'm a salesperson, you're going to notice they downplay it. So when you knock on the door, you're like, oh, you can save all this money, blah, 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 blah. They're like, well, I mean, it's not that much. Literally, because I try to upplay it. Your prospects, most of them, unless they're laydowns, will literally downplay it. So when I know most of the year they're pretty low, but what have they been making you pay lately? Now, what happened to my tone? I know most of the year they're pretty low, but what have they been making you pay lately? Now, why would I lean in? That's what type of tone I choose? A concern tone. Yeah. Now, my concern, remember, your tone is how your prospect interprets the meaning behind your question. So when I come in with a concerned tone, the prospect interprets that I just said, what have they been making you pay lately? That I'm concerned for them. And that triggers their brain to trust me more. Even though I was just knocking on their door, they showed up on Zoom and didn't even know who I was. So that automatically keeps their guard down. Okay, so what have they been making you pay lately? Yeah. If you look here, like this is your neighbor Bill. You know the guy. He has the red door there. He's always walking that little dog with the Prius. You know that guy. See, this is another pattern interrupt. Yep. He's now visualizing the red door. He's visualizing Bill with the dog walking. I'm pattern interrupting. That's what I'm doing right there. That's a pattern interrupt. Yeah. If you look here, it's gone. I mean, it's not horrible. It's like it went from 13 cents a kilowatt to 28 cents a kilowatt in the last 3 years. I mean, it's not horrible. It just doubled is all. What? It doubled? What? See? I mean, it's not that bad. It just went from 13 cents a kilowatt to 28 cents a kilowatt. That's just a little bit less than doubled. What you'll find that what? Huh? What do you mean it doubled? See, I'm triggering curiosity. I'm downplaying a bill that almost tripled. Hey, what? I don't have much time. I've got to go. I've got another appointment, but what was the main reason you chose those guys? I didn't have a choice. Well, this is kind of a cheesy question, but are you opposed to homeowners having a choice maybe? See, it's kind of a joke. You can use a playful tone on that one as well, okay? And there's a lot more to that. But anyways, I don't want to bore you guys.
I love that. Speaking of a cheesy question, I got one right up my sleeve here, so hope you don't mind. So what do you say to people who are like, oh, I don't want to use manipulation to like sell. I want to just sell. Like, do you feel like is any manipulation involved with your sales strategy?
What I think the problem with that way of thinking is if you can't get the prospect to let their guard down, you can't help them solve their problems. And if you can't help them solve their problems, they stay in the status quo. I hate to tell you guys, I love you guys very much. If you cannot get the prospect to let their guard down, if you cannot help them relive their pain or get them to feel the fear of future pain, there is no urgency for them to want to change. Let me give you the most powerful human driver. What is the most powerful emotion that causes a human being to want to change? Tell me
I'll go put it in the comments.
Yeah, go put it in the comments. What is the biggest emotion that causes a human being to want to change?
Go ahead, put it in the comments. What do you think?
Yeah. What is the biggest emotion that causes a human being to want to change? There's two things. Harry's right. It's pain or the fear of future pain. Okay. So if you cannot help your prospect relive their pain, okay, or cause them to feel a fear of future pain, they don't feel any need or urgency to want to change.
Yes.
And if they don't want to change, there is no sale. And if there is no sale, what happens? Their pain stays the same. They stay in the status quo. Their problems stay the same. They keep paying the rate hikes year after year after year after year, and all because of you. So if you can't help them relive pain, there is no sale. If I cannot help them, get them to let their guard down, you're going to get tons of doors slammed in your face. You're going to work 12 to 14 hours, whereas we have clients who work 3 or 4 hours, and they're making 5 times more than you. You're going to burn out pretty quick, I can assure you. Working that many hours, knocking that many doors, appointment after appointment on Zoom, and you're barely closing. Or when you do close, over half of them never get installed. They cancel. Do you know why they cancel? Because you haven't learned yet how to build a gap from where they are to where they want to be, where they feel that pain or future pain. And that's why when you leave, when you try to push and pressure them into it and convince them with logic and facts, when you're gone, guess what? All that goes away. And then they call in a couple days later, a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, and they cancel. See, we have reps that sell exactly what you do, that have installs that get in 2 months later, that might have 15% of them cancel. Just a whole game changer. You sell way more, you get most of them installed, you make more money. It's just magical. I don't know. There you go.
Hey, so we only have a couple of minutes left. Can we do 1 or 2 more questions, or you got to bounce?
Yeah, I got one question. Make it a good one.
All right. Because we talked a lot about your sales training mastery, which is obvious, but you're also a personal brand. Like, you're a huge influencer, and that's a whole nother skill set. And I think that's a huge thing that people should learn. Could you give some tips on building a personal brand?
Yeah. So, not even 2 years ago. So it would have been February of 2021. So we're talking about 20 months ago. Yeah. 19 months ago. I didn't even have an Instagram account 19 months ago. Never been on Instagram. Now we were a pretty large sales training company, even in 2021. But we did a lot of Facebook ads. We were everywhere on Facebook, but we never got on Instagram or anywhere else. We were just a young company. We just started it like 2.5 years before, something like that. And so I came with this idea. I'm like, I should start doing these reels. Like, I didn't know what it was. Like, I think my daughter, Cammie, she's 22 now. She's like, Dad, you should do these reels. And I'm like, what the hell's a reel? And so she started showing me this. And so we got a couple videographers. We hired them. Our corporate headquarters are here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And so these videographers just started following me all the place. Like, I have a videographer who's like my right-hand man. Nick, like, literally almost goes to the bathroom these days. I don't even know what's going on. What is out there online? So we do 180 reels a month. 180 reels a month.
Like, wow. I see a lot. Then that's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, so we're probably the largest sales training company. There's a few other people out there, but probably the largest sales training company on Facebook and Instagram for sure. Pretty huge on there. But anyways, just from those reels, we have like almost, I think 570,000 followers from free reels over the last 19 months. Okay, just off our IG, let me tell you guys, just off of our IG reels, and then they get into the DMs, and we have people in the DMs that message them because they want to learn how to sell, because we train pretty much every industry. We make over $1 million a month just from Instagram reels, just one platform. Like ExxonMobil is our client now. We got them because their senior vice president started following me about 6 months ago on freaking IG reels. Okay.
That's
so
huge.
Things can change very, very quickly. I've got celebrities that follow me from IG reels and they're like, man, like, you know, I've got this pitch I've got to do. Or can you help me? Blah, blah, blah. You know, people on Shark Tank. I love those people. I love those guys now. So what it is you notice that I just talk about whatever the subject is. So for you guys with solar, even if you did 1 or 2 a day, you know, and what I do out of those 100, here's what you should know. Out of those 180 reels a month, those are not all intentional. There's only about 50 of them that I do that are intentional subjects. So what we do is we have a marketing manager that goes to YouTube or goes to Google every day and types in what salespeople and entrepreneurs are searching. And then we do reel about, you know, sales and stuff. And then we do reels around those. So they go more viral, right? We got some that have 3 or 4 million views or something like that on IG. Okay. Not everyone. We probably average maybe 75, 80,000 views per reel, but that's 5 a day. So 5 reels times 80,000 people on average per one, you know, you're reaching 350,000 people every day, right? So they're getting indoctrinated and they literally go out and use some of the stuff, the basic stuff I show on reels to make more sales, which then they're like, holy shit, that really worked. And I don't know what he said before to do or before after, like that little thing, that email was really good. I need to get all the training, right? Because what I show on reels is just very basic stuff compared to what our clients go through our virtual training courses, right? Because they're more industry specific. And so about 50 of those are intentionals and the other 130 are just repurposed content. So we might take, you know, this right now this little interview is being recorded by 3 separate cameras, 2 that are vertical, you know, for IG reels, and then 1 I think that goes to YouTube, right? Because we just started doing stuff for YouTube as well. And so we chop that up and you might see this interview this will probably be scheduled 4 to 6 weeks out because we're usually like 4 to 6 weeks out on new content because we have so much content before. Or any keynotes that I do, they chop up. Any virtual trainings I do, they chop it up. You know, I do probably 6 hours of training calls every week, they chop it up, right? I walk around the office and I talk to our reps here, they chop it up. What you can do is just get on your phone and talk about like, hey, have you ever wondered why you're paying XYZ for this bill? Like, did you realize that this, and it's 60 seconds and you just post it. And all of a sudden you're going to start getting people that follow you and they're going to look at you like, oh, that's the solar guy. Now, one thing you might not notice, most people, I never tell this to. Everybody was asking me, Jeremy, why do you wear the Hugo Boss shirts? Do you know why? Because that's how people know me. That's how I'm almost branded. So if I started wearing t-shirts now, they're like, oh, who's that guy? But especially in the very beginning, if you wear some type of brand, they'll kind of say like, oh, that's the Hugo Boss guy. Or, oh, she's the penguin lady. She wears the penguin shirts, whatever. And it's like a constant reminder in their brain, that's that guy or that's that gal. And so you can like quite literally brand yourself as like the solar expert, right? So if I was you, I'd wear some type of branded shirt or whatever. Don't wear the same one every day. Go out and invest in some different ones. And you're just going to start getting branded. I wear Hugo Boss, Hugo Boss 7th level. I'm backwards here. And so they see that every day with different shirts and it's like, they just get used to it. And that's why you probably hardly ever see me on reels without Hugo Boss 7th level. Very, very rare. So it's just a branding technique to get into people's brains.
And real quick before you go, I know you said you talk about free training, and you said a bit earlier about free training. How can the audience get to that free training you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, so we'll let them join one of our Facebook groups. What's my opinion on Cole Gordon? I'm really good friends with Cole. I'm actually really good friends with Cole. He lives about 200 feet that way from our offices here. I live about 200 feet that way. So about every quarter, I sit down with Cole and we have dinner. Cole's a good guy. He's in like the coaching high ticket industry. Okay. So Cole's a good guy. So anyway, so you guys want to go to one of our free Facebook groups. Let's have you go to, what's a good one for you? That's salesrevolution.pro. So you guys go salesrevolution.pro. There's 90-some thousand people in there. A lot of people in door-to-door, solar, roofing, pest control, alarms, life insurance, pretty much every industry. We go live in there about 2 to 3 times a week, different Q&As, different trainings I do. Then I have some of our sales trainers that are all over the globe that go live in there. You can ask questions, those type of things. And I have something for you. 1 second. I told you. Hold on. I gotta get
drum roll, please. Hold on. This is silence. The calm before the storm.
Should have been nice to you guys. So one of our first books, you can go to Barnes & Noble. So if you go to barnesandnoble.com, this orange bad boy, it's a Wall Street, just came out about 6 months ago, got published. So it's a Wall Street Journal bestseller, Barnes & Noble bestseller, and Amazon. Now, if you buy it on Amazon, I'm not going to be happy. So we have a big deal with Barnes & Noble. So if you go to barnesandnoble.com, go buy the book. It's $17. If you need a GoFundMe page, ask me and Joe. We can help you get a GoFundMe page if you need to invest so you can sell. So this is not industry specific, obviously, because we train every industry. You go get this book for $17. I made it very tactical because one thing I hated when I read sales books back in the day, and I've read a lot, like 1,300 some sales books, is that they're just all like just overviews and theory. And I walked away. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm motivated. Yes, I do know how to set goals. Yes, but I need to know what the hell to say. Yes. I need to know what the hell to ask. I need to know how to use my tone to influence. And it was like most of them never really taught me that. So I made it very tactical. A lot of questions you'll use. I think I even give it some, I don't quote me. I think I give some solar examples here. But yeah, when you get in the Facebook group, when you join it, just message me. I probably won't message you back because there's like 10,000 messages in there a day.
Oh my God.
Stuff. But tell them that, hey, I saw Jeremy on Joe's show, and say, hey, I'm in solar. Do you have anything like solar specific? And I'll just let them send over something to you for free, a little training on solar or something to help you out. Okay. And if you want to learn more advanced training that's more industry specific, just tell them you can book with one of our account managers and they'll go over our different training programs that are industry specific for you if you want to sell more, because you don't have to sell more. You can always sell less. But I heard it's better to sell more.
I think it might be better. And if there's anybody who hasn't seen you on Instagram yet, what's your handle to make sure they can follow you?
Yeah, so I'll post it in here. So they go to, look at that. I'm posting it in here.
Let's go.
It's Jeremy Lee Minor. So
Jeremy
make sure
Lee Minor, baby.
Yeah, make sure it's my verified account. So there's, I want to say 570,000 on there. I can't remember, but you want to follow me on Jeremy Lee Minor. That would be the IG handle, Jeremy Lee Minor.
Get on it, everybody.
I actually know Jeremy Rose there.
Yeah, Jeremy Rose is my boy.
Yeah. I used to sell. He was in the first company I sold for. Jeremy's a stud. I love that guy.
Hell yeah, he loves you too. This is amazing. I think so many people love you, not included, bro. Like you dropping so much.
Is that
so many people?
Is that what you tell everybody you bring on your show?
Not just first time. So you're the first time. So, This has been amazing, Jeremy. This is awesome. So many people loved it. We got to collaborate again. Thanks for dropping so many nuggets, everybody. We are over and out. Peace.
Thanks.